It's Joe from American Trucks, and today we're going to be taking a closer look at the MBRP Black Series 4-inch single exhaust system with a side exit fitting all 15 and newer 2.7-liter EcoBoost F150s. Now, this is going to be a great option for you if you're looking for a large diameter blackout exhaust that's going to bring plenty of tone, but at the same time keep the volume at a very daily drivable middle ground. Now, as you guys probably just heard for yourself, this isn't going to be the loudest exhaust system you could strap to the 2.7 EcoBoost. I'm going to give it a strong 3 out of 5 on our Wake the Neighbor scale, edging very, very close to that 4 out of 5, however, not there quite yet. This is going to pack a lot of tone, a little bit more engine note without that bad of a drone, a little bit while you're getting up to speed. However, once you're at highway speeds, that pretty much is dialed out, and this is definitely, like I said earlier, a very daily drivable exhaust system. So let's dive into what makes up the MBRP Black Series. We're going to talk build quality, finish, other options, price, and a little bit later on I'm going to show you how to get this installed on your truck. But first things first, let's talk build quality. This whole system is made out of 4-inch diameter mandrel bent aluminized steel. Now, mandrel bends, they're exactly what you want. That makes sure the walls of the tube are nice and smooth throughout the length of any bends, allowing your exhaust gases to escape as fast as possible, and that is definitely a good thing. Being the Black Series, this is going to be finished in that black powder coat, which is not just there to add to the looks, albeit on our blacked out F150 here, it does look right at home, but it's also going to serve as a nice protective layer over top of that aluminized steel, preventing most of the corrosion. Most of our noise is going to come from MBRP straight through muffler. That is going to free up a huge restriction from that factory muffler. We're going to get the two side by side in just a second here and really point out the differences. On top of that, we're also completely ditching our resonator, allowing for a cleaner exhaust flow and more noise to pass through. At the end of this kit, we do have a 5-inch stainless steel exhaust tip, again, sealed in that black powder coating. It's pressed with the MBRP logo, and it's gonna sit neatly in the factory location, right behind the passenger side rear tire. Now, MBRP does have a ton of options as far as their exhaust series, with the installer series and the Black Series being pretty much the same thing. Black is just gonna get that nice black powder coat. They're both gonna be made out of aluminized steel, and they're pretty much gonna make up the middle ground of MBRP's range. If you were looking to save a little bit more money, the P Series is going to ditch an exhaust tip, which opens up some customizability options, and it's gonna rock the same aluminized steel. If you wanted to take it up a notch, the XP Series is gonna be your 409 grade stainless, and the Pro Series is gonna be the top of the line, that 304 grade stainless. Now, as far as the exhaust tip goes, you have a bunch of choices here as well. You have dual rear exit, dual opposite side exit, dual same side exit, and of course, you do have this factory location, as you can see right here. So next up, let's talk a little bit about pricing. Simply put, this one's gonna drop in right around 800 bucks, which slots it comfortably in the middle ground as far as catbacks go. Now, if you wanted to save a couple $100, you can go with the 3-inch version of this kit or the installer series, which is going to drop off that powder coat, or obviously you could step it up a little bit with those stainless steel options. So let's move right on to the install. Overall, not too bad. Factory exhaust is gonna fall right out, only 2 bolts hold it in. We'll show you how that works in just a second. This isn't too bad to get hooked up either. Everything goes together nicely right out of the box. I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter. Should take you at most 2 hours if you come with the right tools. Now, before I show you what tools you will need for this job, I want to make a quick note about cutting, which you might have to do depending on the wheelbase of your truck. There are a few wheelbases which you don't have to cut for, and that's going to be the most popular two, the Super Crew with the 5.5-foot bed or the Super Cab with the 6.5-foot bed. No cutting involved for that. That's what we're going to be working with today, so unfortunately, I won't be able to show you what kind of cuts you will have to make. Also, there is an extension pipe in the kit if you have the really long wheelbase, the Super Cab with the 8-foot bed. You won't have to do any cutting for that either, but if you do have a wheelbase that's gonna land in that middle ground there, be prepared with the saw. So without any further ado, let me show you what tools you'll need and how it's done. Tools you'll need for this install will include an impact, pry bar, ratchet, 14mm wrench, a U-joint, 14, 13, and 10mm sockets, as well as an 8mm Allen key. It's always good to bring some rust penetrant along whenever you're doing an exhaust. And one thing not pictured in the shot, if you do have one of those other wheelbases, you will need a saw. So like I said earlier, this is gonna be really easy. First thing we're gonna need, impact, U-joint, 13mm socket. We're gonna take this exhaust down in all one piece. However, if you are working on the ground, you might need to make a couple of cuts, loosen up a couple of hangers if you need to. That can be done with a 10mm socket. In our case, we're gonna start with these tools right here. We're gonna loosen up the 2 bolts up at the front near the cat, 13mm. So now the exhaust is completely loose, only 2 bolts that really hold it on to that front pipe there. We're gonna pry back on this to work it out of the hangers with the pry bar. You're probably gonna wanna lubricate those first just to make things a little bit easier. Again, if you do have trouble with those, you can remove them with a 10mm socket. So what we're gonna do is push backward on this, and it should just drop out and fall onto this cross member right here and the rear axle. Now, one thing you do want to be careful with this resonator pipe is that is on a flex pipe. So once this comes over this cross member here, it's going to want to swing completely down. So just be ready to catch that when it does. Other than that, you can go ahead and work this backward. It should pop right off the F-150. So now that we have the factory exhaust removed, I figured now would be the perfect time to lay out our MBRP kit, put the two next to each other, and draw some key differences. The first thing I want to talk about are the different materials used between these two exhausts. We're going to start with the factory one. This has 3 different materials going on. You can see we have an aluminized steel up at the front here. In the middle, we do have a mid-grade 409 stainless, and out back at the rear there, we do have that high-grade 304 stainless steel for the tip. Now, that is all well and good. Our MBRP over here, this is gonna be all aluminized steel, and we're gonna be using a mid-grade 409 stainless for the tip. Now, one thing to keep in mind is this black powder coating on here, again, it's not just for looks. That should help you out with the durability as well. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is diameter. You can see our factory exhaust is really tiny up at the front, 2.5 inches up there. Behind the muffler, it opens up to 3 inches, and then at the tip, we do have a 3.5 inch diameter. Now, all in all, that is really small. The MBRP is going to open that up all the way throughout the length of this kit, with most of the piping being 4-inch diameter tubing, and then out back at the tip, we do have a nice 5-inch diameter, which should help with the looks. Now, last but not least, let's talk about our 2 mufflers here. We are completely deleting that resonator up the front in exchange for a straight pipe. That's gonna help with the sound. It's gonna help with the flow as well. We're also slimming down that big restrictive factory muffler to a straight through design from MBRP. It's gonna be less restrictive and help with the sound. Now, we are also getting rid of that flex pipe right here, which should help clean up some of the exhaust flow as well. That's pretty much gonna do it as far as differences go between these 2 exhausts. So let's hop right back into our install. Now, the next thing I want to address is cutting. Now, you might have to make some cuts to this exhaust kit. If you have the Super Cab with the 6.5 foot bed, or the Super Crew with the 5.5 foot bed, which is what we're working on today, you will not need to make any cuts. You're gonna use this layout we have on the ground right here. If you have the Super Cab with the 8 foot bed, you could use that extension pipe right there. Again, you don't need to make any cuts. If you have anything else, however, you will need to take either one of those 2 pipes over to the saw and trim them up a little bit. Thankfully, there is a helpful chart in the instructions that give you the exact dimensions those need to be for each different wheelbase. Do that now if you have to. Once you have that done, we can take that inlet pipe and head back to our F-150. That's gonna go up just like so and sit over that cross member. Just gonna align that. Now we do have some new 14mm hardware to hold that still, as we ditched the threaded part of our factory flange with the old exhaust. So I'm just gonna go ahead and run that in just finger tight for now. I wanna get the exhaust on the truck first, and that way we can make any adjustments we need to make sure it's nice and lined up. And then we can come back later and tighten everything down. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna take this specific hanger clamp in the kit. We're just gonna get that started on the end of our inlet pipe, and that comes down in between the two hanger isolators and gets installed to that rearmost one right there, and then we can put the muffler up. Again, if you do have that longer wheelbase, you'd use an extension pipe before you put this up. Now at the back of that muffler, we can go ahead and install another clamp. Now we can bring in this elbow piece with the hanger. We're just gonna get that started into the isolator and into the back of the muffler. The next thing we're gonna do is our tailpipe, and that is gonna get a clamp on it like so. And then we can get that situated in the rearmost hanger isolator and installed on that elbow pipe. So now we're going to slide on our tip just to check the alignment. If you like where that's sitting, which looks pretty good right now, you can go back and tighten down the rest of the clamps with a 14mm socket. If you do need to make some adjustments, again, the kit should be loose, shouldn't be too tough to do that. Now I know I said we'd be tightening clamps, but the first thing we're gonna start with is the 14mm hardware for our flange. I'm just gonna snug that up, make sure this side's even. With that tight, now we can move on to our clamps. Last but not least, we have to come back to our tip, and that is going to take an 8mm Allen key to tighten down. I have mine on a ratchet just to speed things up a little bit. Guys, that is gonna do it for me. It's also gonna do it for the MBRP Black Series 4-inch single exhaust system with the side exit, fitting all 15 and newer 2.7-liter EcoBoost F150s. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Keep it right here at American Trucks for all things F-150.